Just being with you feels like the sun and the moon and the skies are gathered and dancing in the intentions I see in your eyes.
That is Emily Wallace, and you can see her this weekend at Free For All Music Showcase. Hey everybody, Shane Presley here, Rock Paper Podcast. Thank you for tuning in to a brand new episode. I apologize again for the sporadic releases on these things. I've been, going through a lot, moving and working all the time. Been putting in a lot of hours, and so thanks for bearing with me. But I do have a brand new episode. Recorded this a little while back with my friends Mike Landau and Joe Hess. They both have been integral parts of the St. Louis music community over the last several years, and they combined their efforts to put together a brand new event called Free For All, and you are going to hear all about it on today's episode. We're going to have 100 acts performing Saturday and Sunday in St. Louis, Missouri, in the Grand Center area. And you're going to see the likes of many friends from the show, including Bruiser Queen, Big Mike Aguirre, Atomic Junction, Nick Gussman and the Coyotes, Matt Bosler, Middle Class Fashion, and many, many more. Again, free event all weekend long in St. Louis, Grand Center. So come on out and see what it's all about and support live local music. If you need anything from me, you can always find me at rockpaperpodcast.com. Hit me up on the socials. Email me, rockpaperpodcast@gmail.com. Would love to hear from you. With that out of the way, sit back, relax, and enjoy this brand new episode with Mike Landau and Joe Hess of Free For All.
Podcast is kind of like it's like a radio show that's not on the radio. It's on the internet. Does that make sense? Uh-huh. Yeah. That's also like my mom. It makes it sound more confusing, doesn't it? It sounds like this.
Hey, what's up? This is Mike Landau.
This is Joe Hess.
And we're here with my man, Shane Presley of Rock Paper Podcast.
We want you to come check out Free For All STL happening in the Grand Center Arts District, September 6th and 7th. More info at freeforallstl.com.
Rock Paper Podcast.
Scissors beat paper, paper covers rock. Rock beats scissors, Shane covers non-stop. Never know what new kind of guest that he's got coming at you. Live and direct on the spot. Could be rock, folk, country, or hip-hop, jazz. All kind of folks that he has. Could be an artist or a comedian to make you laugh on the
Rock Paper Podcast.
double-decker fudge round, rolling round town. Shane coming at you live and direct from ground zero. He's your hero, he's your bestie. Rock Paper Podcast with Shane Presley.
Rock Paper Podcast.
Hey everybody, Shane Presley here, Rock Paper Podcast, coming to you from St. Louis, Missouri. Hanging out today at Phat Buddha Recording Studio in St. Louis, Missouri with Mike and Joe of Free For All, right?
You got it.
Yeah,
That's right.
Free For All Music Showcase.
Yes, sir.
But we're going to get to know a little bit more about you guys. That's what I thought was cool. Like we've just been having a long chat before hitting record, just trying to get to know each other a little more. All three of us have been active in the St. Louis music community for many years, but this is our first time actually like all three being in the same room together. So it's cool to properly meet you guys, and I've been a fan of what you guys been doing, and so this is cool. This is what I think is fun for me is an opportunity doing this show to sit down and learn a little bit more about individuals making moves in our city. So I think it'd be cool to get to know a little bit more about you all. And so if you guys want to introduce yourselves to those listening, we'll get to know a little bit more about you individually and then what we're working on right now.
Great. First of all, thank you for all you do, Shane. I mean, you know, it is super valuable for the city. I'm super appreciative and grateful for the time that you spend promoting music, promoting venues, promoting bands, your podcast, everything that you're doing is super valuable. And I just can't tell you enough how grateful I am. But my name is Mike Landau. I started Phat Buddha Productions with my partner, Brad Goldenberg, in 1998. Long time ago. Started working with Nelly in the year 2000. He recorded some music here off of his album Nellyville. And so we developed a really strong relationship, started recording all of his independent artists that he signed to his independent label called Dirty Entertainment over the next few years, and really started to develop solid relationships with all of them. And then all the A&Rs were in town really trying to find that next Nelly. So they were signing, I mean, literally anybody they could that they thought had some juice. So obviously a lot of them we heard of: Chingy, Jaquan, Jibbs, Huey, Ebony Eyes, Penelope. There's a lot of them. And those are the ones that you may have heard of. They all recorded here. And there's a lot that you haven't heard of that got deals that recorded here. So we were able to develop solid relationships with a lot of the major record labels. So when they are in town, they know this is a trustworthy spot. They're going to get high quality work done. So we've worked with a lot of heavy hitters in the industry: Lil Wayne, Rick Ross, Panic at the Disco. The list goes on and on. So very fortunate, blessed to be able to develop those relationships early on. I started getting into live production probably around the year 2000 in an event called ACT, which was Art, Culture, and Tunes, which was a Washington Avenue street festival, and just started there, working with the Downtown St. Louis Partnership, really just organizing and helping with production and talent and all of that good stuff. And then from there sort of started a nonprofit in 2001 called Art Dimensions, which is a platform for local artists to really learn how to develop skills to develop a profession and be able to really, quit their day jobs and focus on art. And that really took off. And that sort of got me into the Taste of St. Louis, which was run by a gentleman named Mike Cosciola, who a lot of people don't like because he moved Taste of St. Louis to Chesterfield, but sort of got involved with him early on, and that sort of, which I thought was in my lifetime, the biggest festival in St. Louis, until, Lou Fest. But really got my feet wet really on the bigger festivals there. And then got sidetracked into a production company I started with some people throughout town called Fly Moves Productions, signed a bunch of artists, got Stevie Stone, like a lot of people are familiar with, a deal with Ruthless Records, which was Eazy-E's old label, who's run by his widow now, Tamika Wright, and sort of navigated through that deal and then into another deal with Strange Music, which is Tech Nine's label. And then, just sort of been working with him ever since. So 2013, I sort of came back into the event world in St. Louis and started a festival in Forest Park called St. Louis World's Fair, FARE, with my partner Davide Weaver. And that's a free festival for 9 years in Forest Park, different locations. First year was at the Grand Basin. The second year was at Shakespeare's Glen, and then the rest of them were all up at the World's Fair Pavilion and all the way down the hill. And so did that festival for about 9 years, and then COVID happened. Coming out of COVID, got involved with the Pig and Whiskey Festival to provide them with all of their production, staging, and everything they needed. And that was 22, and that's when I met Joe. Joe had booked all of the live local talent for the festival, and so we worked hand in hand together, just really taking care of the local bands and getting them on and off the stage, and really just working on sort of the backside of that, and started the whole conversation of free-for-all. And that sort of brings us to where we are today.
Yeah, I would say that is a crazy journey, Mike, and some things that I had not known about your body of work. So some of this is news to me. I stand on the shoulders of giants over here. I started doing music in the mid-2000s, playing in just a band with my friends. And we were having trouble getting shows in St. Louis that were interesting. We were having more trouble getting our friends out to shows in St. Louis because we were living, in our parents' houses in Jefferson County. So we went on stlpunk.com, which was the style at the time in 2005, 2006.
Sure.
And we started booking shows in VFW halls. What we found, though, was that places like Owensville and Sullivan and Farmington and these cities that were even further away from the city, the rental fees were so low that it made sense that we could pay to rent out a space for all day, not just an evening, but all day on a Saturday. And so we would kind of book these events with, 10 to 12 bands all day long. And this is where we would have our, CDR release shows, spray painted CDR packages, everything handmade. And so that's kind of how I got my start. I was just a huge Fugazi fan, so I subscribed to a lot of the philosophies that were expressed in interviews from Ian MacKaye. So, no alcohol at our shows, $5 admission no matter what, and different things like that we felt made it accessible to other people who are like us, who are either in high school or just out of high school, and trying to do music outside the context of you have to sell this many tickets or you have to buy the tickets. Of course we were doing things like that, like any other band during that time who didn't really have a following or anything. So that's kind of my start. But eventually I started a show at KDHX with my significant other. We did that for 11 years. That show was called Wrong Division. Alongside that radio show, we had a blog where we previewed concerts happening in St. Louis that particular week. So Monday morning, a blog post would go up I would actually write, concert previews of the shows. And we had a sidebar on the website that had a long list of concerts. So we did that until 2019. And from 2010 to 2023, I worked for Riverfront Times in a variety of roles, from a freelance writer to the editorial coordinator, a fancy name for secretary, to the club's editor. And when Euclid Media bought Riverfront Times from the Village Voice in 2015, I was laid off. But 2 weeks later, I was asked to come back and maybe work on this music showcase that they had. And for me, the Riverfront Times Music Showcase was a joke at the time. It was something we made fun of. They had these things called the RFT Music Awards, where they had about 30 genres, and they asked their readers to vote on the best band in the genre. They would put bands in genres that didn't belong, including my own punk band, which won Best Noise. And then 2 years later, Best Experimental. And while I was involved in those communities a lot at the time and playing a lot of experimental shows, that particular band was just a punk band. So it was just a funny thing, you know, and we played the RFT showcase, bands of mine did, and we were unplugged in the middle of our set in 2 separate years, just because of miscommunication between staff at Riverfront Times and the restaurant owners of the places that they used to have the RFT music showcase. So when I was on staff and I was asked to work on that event, for me, it was like divine retribution. Now I could come in and make sure that nothing that happened to me would happen to anybody else. You know, least of which bands didn't get paid for those events. There was one year where they paid everyone $25 or maybe $20 a band member, just weird pay structures and things like that. But many years, bands were asked to play for exposure. So there were a lot of things that were on my mind, as you might be able to imagine, when I was asked to work on that event. As somebody who kind of did everything just DIY and did everything without a boss, essentially, I took the philosophy of doing right by the bands and the musicians first, and I brought that to the Riverfront Times Music Showcase, and I even rebranded to kind of my own name, a subtle change, to be sure. But the events that I worked on, we called Showcase STL, just to differentiate it from the Riverfront Times Music Showcase, because unfortunately, when I started on the event had a legacy of mistreating bands, and I had to work to change that perception. I'm not sure that I did, but I certainly tried.
Yeah. So I guess it kind of gets us pretty close to current day, right? And you guys said you met through Pig and Whiskey Festival?
Yes. Yeah. Pig and Whiskey Festival happened in 2022. I worked on actually 2 events that summer. One event I worked on was in June 2022 called Art Affair. Not an especially original name. I believe it was an event name that was taken from another series of events in like California or something. But it was something that Riverfront Times wanted to do at that point in time. Kind of an extension of their old Artopia events. Why they couldn't call it Artopia, I'm not sure. But they asked me, given my experience with the music showcase or Showcase STL, and the most recent one I had done was 2019, of course, just because of the pandemic. I was planning 2020,
right.
And I was planning something kind of special for 2020. In 2022, I was asked to do Art Affair, and someone that Mike mentioned earlier, Davide Weaver, was involved in that event to an extent. Something that was really cool at that event is we did these things called Changemaker Awards, where we gave out $750 checks to 4 creatives in the community. And we had a public call for people, for change makers. Essentially, anyone could nominate anybody else for one of these awards. It was essentially a no strings attached grant. Not a particularly, large amount of money, but something that the Riverfront Times could do to boost some local creatives. And each one of the 4 that were chosen as the change makers also had a feature written about them, and they were featured on the cover of the issue of Riverfront Times that week. So I worked on this event, and this event had a huge component of music and performance artists. We had aerialists hanging from the ceiling at that event. We had fire performers. We had an African dance company come in and do a collaborative performance that was really beautiful. We had a wide range of things, and it was a very successful event on Cherokee Street. And right after that event was finished, I was asked to work on Pig and Whiskey. And Pig and Whiskey aesthetically was something that I typically wouldn't gravitate toward. But when they said Tech Nine would be the headliner, I said, I'm in.
Yeah.
That to me is proof enough. If you're bringing a serious artist in, and I would qualify Tech Nine as a serious artist, I said, I'm in. Let's go. Let's do this.
Sebastian Bach.
Hey, I like Sebastian Bach a lot. I think that man is hilarious, and
He doesn't kill you while he's swinging that mic around.
So true, so true. So the first Pig and Whiskey had, honestly, an incredible lineup of national performers. And when asked to pick the local acts for that event, it did a lot for my imagination. I was thinking, what local acts could we sandwich between some of these national headliners? Could we really get some local performers, the best spot they've ever had at a show? And I think we achieved that. Bates opening for Tech Nine, I think, is a dream lineup to a certain part of the music community who know,
Mm-hmm.
So that's the kind of thing that I live for, is creating opportunities that are perfectly suited to the artist. And I think that's something that Mike shares with me as well.
Yeah.
Definitely. And I noticed that what Joe was doing in that first festival, and that it definitely caught my eye. And I was like, oh, there's somebody else out here who's like really gives a shit about St. Louis artists, and that was my initial attraction for sure.
Nice.
Yeah.
It wasn't just my good looks.
No, definitely not.
And that weekend I got sunburnt and COVID,
Oh yeah. I was the only one who walked away unscathed, I think, from no COVID that weekend. Oh man. But yeah, I think that's when Joe was like, yeah, I was doing the RFT showcase. And right then, immediately in my mind, I'm like, okay, well, we need to continue this conversation. And then RFT sank, and, I text Joe. I still have the text somewhere. And I'm like, hey, you still up for talking about that RFT, reboot?
Mm-hmm.
I think we should do it. The time's right. And he's like, yes.
For me, I had a break from it. The COVID gave me this built-in break. Honestly, in 2019, after a decade plus of doing my own radio show and blog, nearly a decade of working for Riverfront Times, in that 10-year span, I also ran a completely illegitimate music venue on Cherokee Street for about a year and a half, maybe 2 years. And I had booked a variety of shows in basements all around South City, smaller spots like CBGB, just a variety of different things. My own bands had been booked at the majority of the venues around town. I was pretty familiar, with the landscape of things. But by 2019, I was really feeling burnt out. I stopped going to shows that I wasn't organizing or playing myself. I became very disillusioned with KDHX that year and left after spending so much of my time in my life promoting that station and dedicating, time to building up something for my part of the music community, I guess you could say. But after having the opportunity to have time away from it, and popping up now and then to do an event like Art Affair or Pig and Whiskey, the core values of what Showcase STL was to me started to come into focus. I mean to say that I did not realize what those events had done for the community until I had years away from them. I never stopped getting messages from people asking if the event was coming back, or if I was going to start something new. I kind of always felt like I was a person that worked behind the scenes. I've never worked to try to be a local influencer or to clean up my social media presence in a way that might be palatable to a broad audience. If you look at my Facebook or my Instagram, there's not a whole lot there besides my own bands from a few years ago. Even the projects I work on now, I don't really share as readily as I used to. So for me, it was all about that break.
Mm-hmm.
It was all about understanding the contributions and realizing that no one else had stepped in to fill those positions or fill those shoes. And it made me realize that maybe my work wasn't something that I did necessarily because of a circumstance. Maybe my work was something a little bit more unique to me and what I can contribute to the music community. Maybe what I was doing was stopping myself from doing something that maybe I'm the only one who can do it. I don't really care if that's the truth or not at this point, you know. To me, it would make me happy if there were other people who were able to mobilize the local music community in a broad way. And I hope that that's what the future holds. But it took serious time away from all of this. Serious time for me to spend on other interests and hobbies and endeavors in my own life. Mm-hmm. For me to be able to come back to this.
Joe just learned how to speak Japanese.
I've got a few semesters of Japanese. Yeah. I would say I'm at a hobbyist level still. I can understand menus in Japanese video games. And let me tell you, that was my goal from day one.
I just got back from a vacation where the screen on the car was all Japanese. I had no idea I should have called you.
Yeah.
Damn it.
You know, you can use Google Lens for that.
Yeah.
Let me tell you.
Thank you. That's too easy. It's too easy.
Work smarter, not harder. Work smarter, not harder.
Well, so we got, you made an announcement just a bit ago that we were going to launch this new project, and it was going to be a music showcase called Free for All. And we opened up submissions to start recruiting a lineup of bands around the area. Those submissions just recently closed, and so now we're working on behind the scenes to make this all come together officially. But we have September 6th and 7th in St. Louis, Missouri, in the Grand Center area. It'll be across what we're saying 100 bands across 10 venues for that weekend.
2 days.
Yeah, yep. 2 days. And so yeah, let's get into this. This is very exciting. I think, like you're saying, like there has been a sort of this gap to fill. So, and you guys are doing this the weekend before Music at the Intersection, what takes over the following weekend there. So, going to be a lot of music happening in Grand Center for those 2 weekends. So, how submissions went well. We got
submissions went really well.
Yeah.
I was surprised by the range that we got, not just in genre, but a lot of seasoned professional musicians applied to perform. And we even got very young bands. Maybe somebody's aunt or uncle sent them the form and they filled it out. We have really off-the-wall submissions as well. Performance art that some people might not consider appropriate for a music festival, but I think we're going to find a way to present something that is so uniquely St. Louis that no other city could replicate this. So looking through the submissions for me has been so energizing and so exciting. I can say confidently that the number of musical artist applications that we received exceeded any past Riverfront Times music showcase. Not by a lot, mind you. But Riverfront Times had an enormous outreach in the St. Louis region and beyond in Missouri. And for us, in a 2-week span, with no money put behind sponsored ads, for us to have received this many musical artist applications without the promise of a specific dollar amount, without making any big promises that we couldn't keep, just based on the premise of a free music festival in the Grand Center Arts District, we received an enormous number of submissions, more than we could possibly ever fit on the show. And that, to me, has me so excited about this year and beyond.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited to see, like, that's kind of the fun. Like, I mean, like, even for myself, like, I mean, I'm pretty active in the community. I do this show. I get emails from people, hey, we want to be a part of the show. And so I do get people outreach from outside of my circle, you know. So I do discover other talents out there that I was unaware of sometimes through various avenues. But it's like something like that when you open up the to submissions, like it could be anything, and that is exciting to think about, like what discovering the next great talents or whatever it might be. So it's very very fun in that sense, especially like, you know, kind of as a fan, somebody that likes discovering new talent like that, like going through that would be a lot of fun, I think. So
I have a question for both of you,
yeah.
Mike and Shane. How many bands have you seen in your life where you saw them and a couple months later they just stopped playing shows or they broke up?
Sure, it happens.
Many.
Yeah.
Many.
Me too.
Yeah.
Me too. Something that this event or an event like what we're trying to do with Free for All, something this event achieves is a snapshot in time. Most bands don't last that long in the grand scheme of things, really. And what Mike and I are trying to do is provide a local music holiday. Maybe for some people, they are not super involved in the local music community. Maybe they only make it out to a couple local shows a year. Or maybe the only local bands they ever see are the ones that get to open for the really big bands. You know, those are privileged positions. As somebody who plays music, those opportunities are few and far between, especially without the resources. And let's not even mention people who are in positions because of nepotism, which, you know, is valid to an extent. Families all over the world who are in the restaurant industry, different blue-collar industries, their kids go into the same line of work because it's what they know. And the same is true for musicians and entertainers and people in arts community in general. And I think a lot of those individuals have access to more opportunities, or they might know more about writing grants and getting funding for their projects. So what we're trying to do here is create a new platform for opportunities to catch many of the individuals who are playing music but aren't necessarily served by the other mechanisms in the community. So for us, the Free for All Music Showcase is the starting point for future projects that are meant to work toward this vision of a music community that is more inclusive, not just of genres, but is more inclusive simply of human beings, people in general. Take, for instance, if you play in a band and you're not a professional and you are not trying to make money or get a record contract, you're not trying to make it your job. Your job is already tough enough. You work really hard at your job all the time. And you play music with your friends and you guys want to play shows, you know, and you want to have a good time. But you are working class and your friends are working class and you aren't promoting yourself. You're not taking the time to do that because, number one, it's hard. Number two, there's no guarantee you're going to get a return on your investment of time or money when you promote yourself. And number three, at the end of the day, maybe self-promotion is not actually what you want to be doing. Maybe you do want to just be playing with your friends. There are a lot of people like this in the city. And that isn't to say that their work is any less valuable or more valuable than anybody else's. But I think that there are so many working class musicians who are here to play music as a part of just their lives, just the way they live their lives. And they're not thinking about their songs in terms of reaching the next level or getting those deals or getting licensing deals. What we want to do is provide something for those artists. And through our website and through our connections to other people in the music community, we want to maybe share some of those opportunities that are a little bit harder to get by, you know?
Yeah. So all this again happening September 6th and 7th, and that made possible, like I said, part to do with Grand Center and the Kranzbergs out there. So we big thanks to them for helping be a part of this also. But what do we want to say about that? Like, did you have designated spots already? Are we still working on those details as far as like?
We're still working on locking all of them in,
right.
But for the most part, we've got them all.
Yeah.
Definitely want to give a big thanks to Maddie and CAF, Kranzberg Arts Foundation. We sort of approached them at the very beginning because I have a great relationship with them. I've worked with them quite a bit. And, obviously they have a tremendous amount of venues and open spots for musicians to play in an area that is walkable. Mm-hmm. So it really lends itself to this type of showcase. And so I brought the idea to them initially just to say, hey, would you guys be willing to provide some venues? And, you've got the footprint. Would you guys be willing to do that? And immediately they were super interested. They thought it would be a really good idea if we could figure out a way to sort of bridge the two events together. So we came to an agreement to do it the week before Maddie, and to really sort of, as Joe was saying, provide Maddie a chance to include the excluded. Mm-hmm. Some of these bands that, as Joe was saying, just don't play out, or they don't play out much, or they just play for their friends. Some of them have been playing for years. They're very talented, and some of them influence these other bands that we know of well. Mm-hmm. So Absolutely. To be able to get a feel for these bands and allow them the platform, that's the real goal, And I think Maddie understood that, believes in that, and they're gracious enough to really latch on to the event and help us out this year. So we're really excited about that.
Yeah, it's incredible. by sponsoring Free for All with venues and staff and networking opportunities for the artists that we pick for Free for All, it's huge. This is a huge, monumental connection that is being made right now. For me, my personal network, which I think makes up a good chunk of the submissions, my personal network is made up of people from Riverfront Times and KDHX. Maybe more KDHX than Riverfront Times, but I think that so many of those folks who were not just being served by those institutions, but were actively participating in events and community initiatives are looking for something new. We're all feeling the void in St. Louis right now. And that's not to say that KDHX or Riverfront Times were perfect, because they weren't. They weren't. But what Kransberg Arts Foundation has done for the music community and the Regional Arts Commission is incredible. It's the lifeblood, really. I personally just applied for an artist grant at Regional Arts Commission because I have my own ideas for my own art that requires some assistance, that requires funding. Anybody can do that, you know? I encourage anyone listening to this to go to the Regional Arts Commission website and bookmark that grants page and keep an eye on it. You know, even if you are playing the kind of music that you don't think anyone else would care about, don't even think about that. Just go and show your work to other artists who are going to evaluate your grant, and let other people decide. Don't decide for them. Put what you're making out there. Give other people a chance to enjoy and connect to it, and give yourself a chance to grow, is what I think.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's a beautiful thing that they got going on over there for sure with the in Grand Center, and just like it's wild that much creativity and music and everything just happening in you know the couple square miles there around in the Grand Center, and it's like it's you know, to see something like this coming there and being surrounded by all that is going to be really special. So I'm excited to see it come together. The title again, you know, Free for All, is that that's the case as far as ticket wise too, right?
Yeah,
it's a free event.
This is a free event. The only thing we ask is that you give us an email and register. And so we know you're coming and we know what to expect. But yeah, 100% free. We're excited for that. And that, again, that's thanks to all of our sponsors, who are, you know, coming forth, to make this happen, and believing in the event. But yeah, I think that's, something that we weren't anticipating was going to happen at first when we first came together on this concept. And eventually it just sort of came out that yes, we're going to make this first one free. Again, thanks to the sponsorship. And so, you know, I think it's going to be absolutely the best music showcase in St. Louis history.
There's no doubt in my mind that what we're going to do is going to make an impact.
Right.
What I would like is for anyone who is listening to this, if you're listening to Shane's podcast, you are the target audience. You're the person that I want to text your family and friends and help us build this up. For me, I want to be able to play this event someday, to be honest with you. I could not use one of these coveted spots for any of my projects this year in good conscience. I couldn't do it because we had so many more submissions than we have spaces. I mean, many multiples of submissions than spaces. Hundreds. But what I want for the future, long term, is an ecosystem that provides opportunities to a much more broad audience, including the people who aren't necessarily hungry for it. So free is an interesting word because, yes, it's free for people to attend. But by attending the show, you're giving us your time, you're giving us your participation in our vision. And we don't take that lightly. We're very thankful for anybody who is showing interest in this, whether you are in a band, you want to perform, or you want to see an event like this become a local institution. We're not thinking about the Free for All Music Showcase being in competition with other music events. We're looking at Free for All as something that's more comparable to Cinco de Mayo on Cherokee Street or Mardi Gras in Soulard. That's what we're thinking. We're thinking a local music holiday.
Right.
That is for everyone. Not everyone is going to get to play every year. That's one of the things that brings me a little bit of anxiety right now is having to send, and I'm going to send every single person who submitted an email of some kind. An email that might say, we would love for you to play. Here's what we can offer for you. Please say yes. An email saying, we don't have space this year, but we hope that you'll still participate by coming to the event and being a part of it. And we hope that when you see Free for All pop up again in the future, that you'll apply again, because that's what keeps, this train going, is the participation. Even if you're not a musician, whether you play music or you're just a music lover, as far as I'm concerned, you are eligible to participate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You mentioned, some of the other local, but I was thinking more of a national thing, like a South by Southwest type of feel, it's different, but something like that, to where it's just it's focused on music from people all around the community and country and stuff. And I just saw a video pop up. I follow one of these Instagram accounts I follow. It was showed a video of Mumford and Sons in 2008, I think.
South by Southwest.
It played at to 20 people at a pizzeria outside of the festival.
Yeah.
And then the next year I think they had already signed in the UK, and this was their first trip to the States. And, and then but it's then they blew up that next summer. They were all over the radio. And so anyway, I'm saying all that because I think it could be cool to, as this thing continues to grow, where people want to be a part of it. And then we see those kind of things. We see the band that blew up the next summer, they're all over, that kind of thing. There's an opportunity here to see up and coming talent, and, could be the next whatever band, that we're, you're celebrating in the city. So I just think it's cool that we start to, to continue to grow, and then give this platform to people to come out and showcase what they got going on, and curate this showcase into something that people celebrate like that. Like you're saying, that something that becomes that South by Southwest, becomes that whatever next big music thing. So
it's so interesting that you say that, because to me, Maddie Festival and Conference is the closest thing St. Louis has to South by Southwest.
For sure.
When I say that we're looking to be a local music holiday, I say that as part of the Maddie Festival and Conference ecosystem. By doing what we're doing the weekend before and setting up Maddie for the following weekend, what we're hoping to do is grow that festival and conference through our inclusion, because what they're doing is they're giving us a space to create in the first place this year. They're allowing us to have a pilot program for Free for All that is something Mike and I have been talking about for a little while now, but we needed the puzzle piece that was just the right shape, really. And that's what Chris Hansen and the Kransberg Arts Foundation and the Maddie Festival and Conference provides for us. Without their legacy for the past few years and what they have built, we wouldn't be here. We wouldn't be able to launch what we're doing in St. Louis in an ecosystem where Maddie doesn't exist. We are here because of Maddie Festival and Conference. And I think that a best case scenario is that we help build that event into that South by Southwest contender in such a way that we don't mention something like South by Southwest by name anymore, because the St. Louis version is so unique and distinct and impactful on its own that other events will then be compared to music at the
big
intersection.
difference between Maddie and South by Southwest is how locally focused, hyper local focused it is. I mean, it's South by Southwest. I've been many times early on and know some of the organizers, and their intentions are not at all in line with Maddie, where Maddie is really built on the cultural, artistic fabric of St. Louis,
Right.
and promoting that through the festival. And it's a little different. I think South by Southwest is like this international discovery of talent, where this is more of a localized, focused event.
Yeah.
And that's what really makes Free for All a really good fit for Maddie. And I think the combination is really going to be super strong in terms of building that community, including the excluding, and allowing people to discover the undiscovered, not from around the world, but from here in St. Louis.
Yeah.
And I think there's the separation between those two. Now, in terms of the value and like the brand, just like you were saying, Joe, like this is going to be something that no one else can do. This is something that only St. Louis can do. That's what we're trying to accomplish. And I think that's what Maddie's trying to accomplish and sell to the rest of the world. Like, hey, come see St. Louis and what makes St. Louis St. Louis. Not like, hey, come to Austin and let's find a band from Australia that's really good.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, exactly.
And I think that's sort of what separates those two.
For sure.
Entertainment district, right? That was a headline this past week for St. Louis, the entertainment district. Mike and I are here to call them out on it, to say, okay, we are an entertainment district. The two of us are part of the community that has always felt that way. We're already here. We're already there spiritually. And what we want to do is call on the music community and call on the extended concert going community in St. Louis, including if you've never even been to a concert before. Come and see what we're doing. Come and see how we're changing the game, because that's what we intend to do. What I want other people to start their own local music showcases. I want you to come to our event and think, I could do this too. I could put together an event. I know people locally. I want to see copycats. I want to see other people come out and make something. Maybe we inspire something completely different. I want to see the new ideas. St. Louis is a city where you can do it. You might not be the most profitable here. You might not be able to build it into something long-term necessarily. And if that's the only reason you're here, for profits or for your own brand building, I wish you luck. I really do. If you're here to build community, then let's go. You know, you can reach out to us. I'll share whatever I know. I'm not the most knowledgeable person in the world, but I do have some experience, and I'm happy. My DMs are open. You know, I will talk it up with anybody who is interested in making something cool happen for our city, or even just for their own community that they're a part of and they're trying to build up.
Yeah.
We're here for it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, community is big, like you're saying. That's one of my favorite things about any of the shows. I was trying to do like an annual event celebrating the podcast, and I would book a handful of bands and a couple of various venues around over several years, and but I would try to. Sometimes it would be more like a focused genre specific, but a lot of times I tried to do a very mixed genre and introduce friends of mine that I think would get along and get everything else. Like we were like here, and then they realize, oh yeah, we should do more shows together, and I think, and that's kind of the fun thing, is bringing my friends together in a central location and letting them meet, and then they can continue to go on and do more stuff. So it's like very much what you're saying there, like we want people to come here and be like, hey, we should continue to book more shows together. I like what you guys are doing, or so that kind of thing. Hopefully we get more of that.
It's definitely a connectors. We're
Right.
like the three of us. I feel like we're, that's part of my situation. Like my daily mantra is to make meaningful connections, you
Right.
know? And that's what this event's about. And I think that's what you were just saying, like, that's what you were trying to accomplish. And that's 100%. And that's the community,
Yeah.
and that's how the community gets stronger and is more vibrant and more, just more, something that everyone wants to be a part of, even if it's like somebody who's not much of a music lover. When that scene and that ecosystem is working together, those people gravitate more towards it, and they're like, oh, this is something special.
We can make new music lovers out of this.
Yes.
I can say I grew up with parents who listened to Hendrix, Janis Joplin. It's just Woodstock, right? I grew up on the Woodstock lineup. And I never discovered a deeper love for music beyond that. But I think I had a good start. And what made me fall in love with music was the first time I started playing in a band. And I jumped right into playing shows. I did not know how to tune my bass guitar. But my best friend was a songwriter. He taught himself guitar by learning Led Zeppelin solos, which is just still blows my mind to this day.
Right.
Yeah, straight up Jimmy Page solos, not even the full song. He was really interested in those solos early on. Anyway, and I didn't know how to play bass, and then we had a competent drummer who carried the band, and that was my high school band. And what it did for me was it introduced me to other people in the music community, playing the, open mic nights, the old One-Eyed Jacks at Creepy Crawl, which was essentially a one-night battle of the bands where the winner won a 6-pack of beer. We weren't even old enough to drink that beer. Things like that. I grew up doing things like that. I grew up doing things like that.
Yeah.
And I met people who said, hey, you would really like this band. And then I spent the next few months listening to the Mars Volta, and At the Drive-In and all these other bands, and got into Fugazi. But all of these different, recommendations came from other people who were in bands who watched us play and was like, you should really listen to this. You should really check this out. And some of those recommendations changed my life.
Yeah.
They really did. They really did. And it didn't come from being on the internet, reading a blog, reading a review, even watching MTV. The deeper connection didn't happen through those things. The deeper connection happened for me when I played a show, and my band was bad, but people were really sweet to me and booked me on other shows and gave me lists of music to listen to. And I would go to Slackers the next day after a show and spend my my paycheck on CDs. Many of those CDs I still have. So from that era. So it happens differently for everyone is all I mean to say.
What you said though is important there. And I think that's a really important thing, which is the connection, and you're not going to be able to get the connection you're going to get in an event like Free For All on the internet. Right. There's just no possible way.
No way.
And so that's why another reason on the pile of reasons why this is so important. Not only for the musicians, but for the audience and for those music lovers out there. You're never going to be able to get this connection like this on the internet. It's just not possible.
And the other thing is you said a lot of them were those competitions, and then there's no competition involved.
Nope.
There's so many of these things, either battle of the band type of situations, and it's like, so to have something like that where it's an even playing field for everybody, so it's I think that's another key component to it.
There is a curatorial component, which does mean that not everyone who applies gets to perform.
Right.
And actually, because of the high number of submissions, most people who applied will not be asked to perform. I think this is a good problem, though, because this shows me that based on little more than the fact that we said this is free to the public, that this is 2 days in Grand Center Arts District, and that the format is free and open. Free at the beginning of the event means more than the price of admission. It means free genre. It means free format. That is something I think is sometimes promised and not delivered on. And while our event will definitely have a major rock and punk and indie component that might not be present in the Maddie Festival and Conference because of their aesthetic choices that are completely valid and in keeping with St. Louis's musical history and musical heritage, what Free For All is doing is, instead of looking at the heritage in the history as an aesthetic starting point, what we're doing is we're looking our best into the future. We're looking our best into things that might be a little harder to categorize. And this is why we call it a music showcase.
Yeah.
There are a lot of reasons to call it a music showcase. Free For All is not a festival. When we have a music festival, there are certain expectations. Maybe a set length might be an expectation for a music festival. Maybe a package for the artist behind the scenes. So that includes things like tech writers and a certain level of hospitality and benefits. That is what a music festival provides. A music festival provides a lot of things. But the Free For All Music Showcase, what we're doing is a little different. And why that's important is because we are filling a void that, if we can do this right, we can contribute to the culture of St. Louis in a way that embraces the creative diversity of the people here, the musical diversity of the people here. A music showcase to us, Free For All, will have 35-minute sets. That's pretty short. If you're comparing to other events, that can be pretty short. Our changeover times for the musicians themselves is very fast. It's very fast. Our engineers will be worked very hard that day. That is just a fact. That's a fact. The staff working on the event will be working very hard that day because this is an event that's open to the public. This is an event where we're putting as many musicians in one space for a very brief time, as much as possible. So what we're providing is something that's a little different aesthetically. When you go to Free For All in the Grand Center Arts District on September 6th and 7th, what you're walking into is an event where multiple venues will be activated at the same time, where you can watch 1 or 2 songs from a band, and then you can walk out the door into the next venue and catch another 1 or 2 songs. And you can repeat that nonstop all day and never have any downtime. It's a full sensory explosion for a music fan. And it is meant to be that way. This is a different aesthetic altogether than what you might expect at any other event. It really is. It is for the musicians, it is for the people working the event, and it will be for the audience as well. We're designing things in a way to where at the beginning of the day, only one of the venues will be open. Then the next hour, another venue will open, and so on and so forth. We're doing things in a way that will encourage each venue to have as many people in the venue as possible when it is open. There will be a time in the evening where every single venue is running at the same exact time. Half of the venues will be running in the first half of the hour, and half the venues will be running in the second half of the hour. Things like this are a deliberate decision because this is a music showcase. This is a non-stop fire hose of local creativity. And you're going to get your fill if you come to this event. You are going to see things you've never seen before. You're going to hear musicians you've never heard of before. You might go because you recognize a name or two on the lineup. And that's what we're hoping. You know, we're not booking a complete event of amateurs. When we say diversity, we mean that those people are included. But you're also going to see seasoned musicians who have been doing this for a long time. You're going to see stalwart pillars of the music community who have chosen to participate in this event because they want to build this event up and provide something for the music community. So for us, Music Showcase is what we're living by, because for us, that is what makes us different than anything else being offered in the city.
Yeah. Well, very cool. I'm ready. Let's go.
Let's do it.
Yeah, man. After that speech, man, I'm fired up. We got so I think we said all the information, but we're going to launch a website soon that'll include more information, and you can start getting that lineup. We'll start trickling out announcements as regarding our talent that'll be playing for the day. We'll have times and sets and stuff, that kind of thing, kind of mapping stuff out more. And so keep an eye out for more information as we continue to get closer to the event. But that'd be freeforallstl.com, right?
Yep.
Yes, sir. And if you use Meta, we are on Facebook and we are on Instagram, and that's where you will see the lineup drops first. Mm-hmm. We will be putting them on social media first, and then we'll be adding them to the website in batches, because on our website, we are holding the representation of the artist to a high standard. That comes from my experience working in local media, my current occupation as a contributing writer to St. Louis Magazine. I want to make sure that artists feel like they're being represented well, and that, you know, everything is about the weekend of the event. If you're down there and you open up the Free For All website, I want you to be able to look at the schedule, click a name, and see a picture of the performer along with the genre and when they're playing. You know, there will be other information as well if you want to dig, but by and large, you know, this website is going to be active after the event. So if you see things you like, you will be able to track it down afterwards, and you will be able to follow the musicians that you discover on your own at the event. And that's really important to us, is that a lot of things that we're doing right now are built for a long-term vision.
We are going to have a player on the website I'm very excited about too. So each band will have to submit one song that will be included into the player. So I'm super excited about that. So as the event grows throughout time, that content of that player grows. As Joe said, if you've heard a band that you saw at the event you really enjoyed, you're going to be able to go to the website, find them, find out where they're playing, find out more about them, find out how to support them, find out how to connect. And that's what it's just developing those connections again. So, super important. But also, as he said, before you even go to the event, you're going to have an opportunity to go on the website, sort of review all of the artists, hopefully find somebody you've never heard before that you're digging, and then find out when they're playing at the showcase, go down there, meet them, develop that connection. So however we can slice or dice it, we want to make that connection, and that website is a huge tool of that. So definitely appreciate you mentioning that. Free for all with the number 4, STL.com.
That's right.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Shane. This has
Thank
been
you
great.
guys. Yeah.
Thank you, brother.
Absolutely. I'm like I said, it was a pleasure getting to properly meet you both. It's been a long time coming. I know we've been friendly online, but it's always like exactly what we've been talking about, getting to make those connections in person, not just the internet. So we're doing it, man. So
thank you.
But yeah, I appreciate you guys doing this today, and I'll see you if not before, I'll see you September 6th and 7th in Grand Center.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye-bye.